What an ugly, godforsaken shit show that was, folks. We're going to get through this thing together as Gruden gave us a big old dirty rock for the holidays. So stick right with us. It's the Hog Sty.
Welcome to the Hog Sty with your crew, Adam Terrassi, Alex Zeese, Sean Conti, and Steve Thomas. And now, here's your host, Sean Conti.
Hey everybody, this is Alex back here with you. It's Tuesday night because we didn't want to record at 1 in the morning. But we have with me today Steve Thomas. Steve, I want you to do something for me. Put on your lawyer hat, and can you find a legal way for the Skins to never play on a Monday Night Football game again?
I wish I could. You know, I was thinking about that, and oddly enough, Stephen A. Smith, Mr. Angry Man himself, was talking about that very thing today on his show. I saw a 2-minute, screaming, clip from him on the internet this evening. And he was talking about how the Skins ought to just be banned from playing on Monday Night Football because, we've lost 16 to 17 at this point. It's just a disaster zone. So,
it's a mess of a joke. And I'm not going to do my Stephen A. Smith impression again because I think that was kind of racist when I did it last time.
It might have been. The two whitest guys in the world can't do Stephen A. Smith effectively.
Yeah, unfortunately. Well, speaking of white guys, also filling in tonight because the other guys are out, we have our buddy Chris Larry back on. Chris, welcome back, and thanks for hopping on with us last minute.
No problem. Thanks for having me. Glad to be back.
See, you just minimized Chris, though. You were like, he's the backup to the backup team. So now the audience doesn't expect much.
Hey, I'll be your Marcel Spate.
That works.
There you go. Just don't tear an ACL like Houston Bates did, and we'll be all right.
Oh, yeah.
When we're lamenting the loss of Bates, we're in rough shape.
Yeah.
Hey, can we start off with some good news?
Sure.
Since this has been all, the right before we came on the air, and again, this is Tuesday night, the Pro Bowl selections were announced. And, of course, Trent Williams was selected.
Right.
Brandon Scherff was selected.
Which I'm a little surprised by that. I'm happy for him, and I think he probably is about there, but I'm surprised he got in.
Well, it's because, the team doesn't give up sacks. He's been really good in pass pro.
Yes.
So at least we had to, surprisingly, a little bit surprising, I guess Josh Norman was not selected. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean he's not going to be an alternate when everybody starts dropping off and, yada, yada, yada.
No, he was listed as an alternate. I saw that.
Yeah.
He's the first alternate corner. Two names you didn't mention. Kerrigan got in for the Redskins. I saw that. And Jordan Reed is going to the Pro Bowl.
Oh, well. I forgot about Jordan Reed. Yeah, I meant to mention Jordan Reed. So to summarize, I've had a chaotic evening just to get to the recording point here.
Yeah.
To summarize, we have Trent Williams. It's just nuts. We've got Trent Williams, Jordan Reed, Brandon Scherff, and Ryan Kerrigan all getting into the Pro Bowl. Mm-hmm. So that is a good thing. Congratulations to all those guys on your free trip to Orlando, Florida.
Right. Go to Disney World.
If you're gonna take a guard in the top 6 picks, at least he can be an All-Pro by season 2.
Yeah. I think that's a good thing for us.
Well, let's hope he gets to the All-Pro point. That'd be great. The Pro Bowl is kind of a popularity contest, but it's something. Mm-hmm. It's progress.
I did also see Kirk is an alternate, so if somebody gets into the Pro Bowl and is going to the Super Bowl, Kirk could be there as well. But I don't count alternates personally. I think that's kind of like a, also ran kind of thing.
You realize you just insulted everything London Fletcher ever stood for.
Yeah. Well, London Fletcher belongs in the Hall of Fame, not in the Pro Bowl. So there.
I think London Fletcher may start for us next week if he could suit up.
He's probably still about as mobile as some of the guys who were out there this week.
It could be. We kind of need him.
Yeah. Well, let's jump into the burning dumpster that was this game, guys. Probably our worst game on offense of the season. I think that's fair to say. So let's start there.
No, the Pittsburgh game was
That was bad
up,
too.
down there too. Yeah. In this game, let's just run through some of the numbers first before we really get into the
Right.
yucky part. Kirk Cousins, and this is incidentally why sometimes these quarterback numbers can be deceiving, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But Kirk Cousins was 32 of 47 attempts for 315 yards, 6.7 yards per attempt, 1 interception, no touchdowns, quarterback rating of 77.9.
That's really bad
Rushing
for him.
as that's bad for him. Rushing as a team, we were 13 carries for 29 yards.
Right.
Robert Kelly was 9 carries for 8 yards, which
Whoa.
comes out to a .9 average. Deshaun Jackson, 7 receptions, 111 yards. He was the leading receiver in the game.
Mhm.
Pierre Garçon had 7 receptions, 78 yards. Robert Kelly redeemed himself a little bit in the passing game, 4 catches, 47 yards. Chris Thompson had 5 catches. Jameson Crowder, had 5 catches. Vernon Davis had 4 catches and a drop or 2. And Jordan Reed, who had maybe the worst game of his professional career, in my opinion, 1 catch for 6 yards, 1 punch thrown to a helmet, and 1 ejection.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and 1 really kind of below average hook.
Not only that, but he
had a hard object.
Yeah,
Yeah,
really
it
not
was
smart
thrown
to
at the
take
side
a
of a
swing
helmet.
at metal.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. Well, so let's kind of get into the nitty gritty of it. I kind of think this was Kirk's worst game he's had this season. You know, those yardage numbers looked good, but a lot of that was in the fourth quarter when we were trying to desperately win this thing. Which, that's when we get pass happy. We were already pass happy to begin with, but we got super pass happy. And I hesitate to say we should run the ball more when we weren't running effectively. But, they maybe should have tried to run the ball a little more, especially in this early second half.
Well, if you would allow me to go Stephen A. Smith a little bit, we talked about him earlier because I've had a rant brewing in me all day about this game.
About running the ball, I'm sure, yeah.
No, about everything, because this team embarrassed themselves, okay?
Mm-hmm.
They had the opportunity to really put a solid hold on a playoff spot. All they had to do was beat a 5-8 team, and they came out flat. They came out listless. There was zero energy. Kirk Cousins was terrible. And we'll talk about him more in detail. The offensive line got dominated in the run blocking, area. Defensively, they couldn't tackle. Jonathan Stewart ran all over him. I think this was the first time I can ever remember that Jay Gruden shouldered some of the blame. For once, it was a bad game plan. Like you just mentioned, 13 runs, 47 passes. Just
right. And 2 of those runs were by the
dumb.
quarterback, by the way. So it's really 11 runs, 49 passes.
It's just ridiculous. I mean, if anything brings Jay Gruden's downfall, it's going to be that, at least in terms of offense. So I was embarrassed to be a Redskin fan on this game. I really was. National stage, Monday Night Football, you want to be a playoff team, and you come out and you just look terrible. There's no excuse for it. The team ought to be ashamed of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They got to move on, but this was as bad as it gets, in my opinion.
They look confused in all 3 phases of the game. I mean, the mental errors were just almost on a play-to-play basis. I mean, taking the ball out of the end zone, kickoff returns for no good reason,
right.
Horrible penalties, the block on the back. There was just so many boneheaded, just brain fart type plays.
Listen,
yeah,
I mean, I agree with you. And by the way, you know how I'm kind of obsessive about special teams. Why do teams still try and take the ball out of the end zone? If you're like a yard in the end zone, just take the knee. You get it to the 25 that way, and that's so much better than being at your 14 to start the half, and then you get sack fumbled. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Our special teams has improved overall this season, but that aspect, the kick return game, has been terrible this year, I felt like.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've been good in the punt return, but let's talk about what's important here. Let's start with the quarterback.
Right.
And the reason why I said up at the top the numbers can be deceiving is that, the guy was, through 47 passes, completed 68% of them, which is a pretty good percentage.
Mm-hmm.
He passed for over 300 yards. So if you just look at those numbers, you think, well, he must have had a pretty good game. But I counted 5 bad passes out of that, and there were probably more.
And 2 big
But there were
turnovers. Don't forget.
2 big turnovers, and he was missing wide open receivers. He made
Mm-hmm.
misreads. The interception was a bad misread by him. You know, he was checking down too much. I thought he got scared. I thought he looked a little rattled in this game.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with Kirk Cousins, you know, he's put up, and I think he's all kind of grown. I don't know about you, Chris, but over the course of this show, he's grown on us a little bit, you know. And you know, I don't think anybody would argue at this point that Jay didn't make the right decision 2 years ago, but he hasn't come through in big games. Can we just admit this? You know, he didn't come through in the playoff game last year. You know, against, you know, when you're talking about big time teams, big competition, he hadn't looked as good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and big time quarterbacks sometimes comes through. You know, and I think it's a fault of his. I don't know if he still needs to develop or what,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, it's something that I see in Kirk Cousins is not good.
Chris, do you have anything?
I'm similar to you all. I've come around to Kirk Cousins. I think that started last season. I think there's a lot to like.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not one of these people that anytime he throws up a bad game is going to, you know, totally be like, can't sign him. He's horrible. He's bottom tier.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, Steve, you got a really solid point in terms of we haven't seen him step up in big moments yet. He does seem to wilt under the big lights. He got a couple good victories under his belt earlier this year against tougher teams in the kind of middle of the season, but when the prime time lights are on, or when it's kind of the big lights of the NFL, he's yet to take that step forward.
Right. I mean, the lone exception this year probably being the Green Bay game, where the team really performed well. But again, Green Bay is not what they used to be. It's more a reputation thing for them. Here's the thing.
And if we played them now, they would crush us, to be honest.
Yeah,
Like, we played them next week,
I think
it would
we
be
have
rough.
no momentum right now. And one of the things that, you know, I look at this team and, you know, I try to look at this game with a big picture, you know, perspective. We are still in the building phase. We all know that. I like some aspects of what we've done. I think this passing game that we've developed is a very effective system. I think it works with Kirk and Jay, but we're a one-dimensional team, and I don't think we have the players right now to develop what I like to call the gritty, cold weather side of this football team. You don't have a nasty guy on this offense who you can kind of rely on. You don't have anybody who Jordan Reed kind of the exception, where he literally punched a guy in the mouth. We don't have a guy who punches you in the mouth in a game like this where you are out physicaling guys. We're a speed team. We're a finesse team. We're not nasty. We're not.
Well,
gritty.
see, it's funny you say that, and I'm not disagreeing with you. The ironic thing about that is that Scott McLuhan has told us over and over and over again he wants us to be a punch you in the mouth team, big, nasty. Mm-hmm. And you have a point. You know, the NFC East has always had the reputation of being, you know, the hard-nosed, gritty, you know, exactly the type of guys. Yeah, and there is some truth to that. You know. I think the Eagles got away from that, you know, in the Chip Kelly era. Dallas was terrible for years, you know, but the Giants have always had a strong running game, you know, and so when the weather gets cold, you have to be able to run the ball a little bit.
Right, because throwing the ball is harder in the cold weather. Right? I said that the other day.
And listen, I mean, you know, we had 11 called run plays this week, and this isn't, you know, this game wasn't out of reach ever. You know, and if you look at the run-pass balance of the whole game, you know, 10 passes, 6 runs in the first quarter, 20 passes and 7 runs by halftime. You know, in the third quarter, it was, 32 runs or passes, 17 runs. Mm-hmm. You know, and we knew that Carolina had a great running game and had some weaknesses in the pass coverage, so we expected it to be a little bit top-heavy, but that's just insane, and that's not how you win football games.
No, and I don't... I like what Rob Kelly does. I don't think they have the confidence in him to kind of take over a game like this when you're going against, you know, if there's one thing Carolina is, it's they're a good run-stuffing team with a very good front seven, even without Luke Kuechly, you know?
They still have a lot of talent on that defense, and they're fast, so that's not a surprise. What I felt about the running game is there seemed to be no creativity. You know, like it was Rob Kelly up the gut. There was no sweeps. There might have been a good chance for a Deshaun Jackson reverse. I mean, get him running sideways a little bit. I think there could have been a lot more creativity in the running game, especially when it was obvious you weren't going to throw. They weren't going to be able to throw against that zone to their regular success rate. So, I saw no creativity in the run game or the short pass game that would loosen up both the defensive line a little bit and start to have the safeties and DBs sneak up.
Yeah. We have an issue with these
yeah.
physical defenses, don't we?
Well, yeah, we do. And in what I saw yesterday, it was yesterday at this point, in terms of the O-line and the run game, was they were getting beat at the point of attack. We're going to have to ask Adam this when he comes back, next episode he's back on. But, there was zero room. And no, they didn't pull guards. Like last week they pulled Trent out to the edge twice, and that worked. Didn't see that at all. But from man to man, tackle to tackle, they were getting beat at the point of attack by the Carolina defensive line. Rob Kelly was getting hit in the backfield consistently. He was getting hit at the line of scrimmage. There were no holes whatsoever. But that having been said, when you only run 11 times, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
You got to do it more than that. And the other thing is, and I'll relinquish I've been, I told you guys I had a rant in me. Somebody tell me, one of you guys, the number of, deep passes we ran to Deshaun Jackson.
Deep
a
passes?
9 route, which is a go route, an out and up, something like that, deep post.
We didn't do anything. I mean,
None.
Jackson had a couple good deep-ish catches, but they were all the kind of going off to the sideline plays.
Yeah, we didn't even try. And I realized if you look at what Carolina was doing is they were dropping their safeties way back and they were shading the safeties to the side. But at some point you got to try it, right?
Well, just make them run. That's part of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You let them, if they're going to do that and just sit there and play center field and not have to work a lot, at least make them run up and down the field a couple times.
Right. Or, I mean, why not throw Crowder on the other side and go to him? He's got some speed. Try it to somebody else.
And the really sad part about it was I didn't think Kirk was under that much pressure. He didn't get hit that much in this game.
No.
He just laid an egg, and it happens to everybody. He had a bad day, okay. We're not going to run him out of town just quite yet. But I do think there's something to the fact that he has not yet really stepped up and played well against good teams in the NFL yet. He tends to lay an egg against good teams in pressure situations. So
my only other thought about the offense, real quick, Jordan Reed needs to either get healthy, 100% healthy, or he needs to just stay on the bench because I'm going to be in there and not do anything but one catch and be in pain all the time. I don't want to see that.
But that's on the coaches, right?
Yeah.
He's not going to take himself out. So, to me, that's the coaches have got to be monitoring that and tell him to take a bench or make him inactive. I mean, the last 2 weeks, he had no business being on the field. And the week before, he was just non-existent. And this week, he was a liability.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, they just need to sit him. I don't know how bad the shoulder separation is. Maybe he ought to be done for the year. They don't want to do that, but certainly didn't help anything. And this was the first game I can really remember where his attitude caused the problem.
Mm-hmm.
There was no need. That fight was stupid. There was no need for all that. There was no need for him to, take a swing at a helmet. It's just ridiculous. He was not in the right frame of mind. And I think at some point his coach, somebody, Jay Gruden, one of the assistant coaches, needs to yank him off the field. Before he got.
I think I agree. I mean, he doesn't have that history of having an attitude issue. So I'm hoping it was just kind of like something boiled over for him. We've all had that happen. You're a guy, you have testosterone, it happens. But hopefully it's an anomaly for him.
And last thing about the offense, in case we didn't mention it, there were a bunch of drop balls. Our receivers don't usually drop balls. I counted 4. Just in my unofficial stats, I think I'm right with the 4.
I think it might have been closer to double, Steve, to be honest.
Well, it depends on what you call a drop. I'm calling the blatant ones. Certainly at a minimum there were 4 blatant ones. Put it that way, there might have been more.
Mm-hmm.
But point is, I think they just they just didn't execute in all phases, and we scored 15 points against a defense that has given up point totals in the 40s against some teams.
Right.
What was
Right.
that catch where Deshaun Jackson was cradling the baby? What was that? When we're kind of
like right through his hands and his chest, and it was almost like watching a video game where, the ball goes through the character. Like it had kind of that feeling to it.
Mobile era.
Yeah.
Like catch with your hands, man. Good Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the kind of night. That was the night in 2 seconds right there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he did make a couple incredible catches.
We know he can catch.
I mean, Deshaun Jackson's got unbelievable footwork. If you guys notice this, he's got body control like nobody else. He can tiptoe that line of, the sideline like just nobody else can. I mean, very impressive.
People are saying it was his best night as a receiver for the season, which ultimately means nothing in a loss. But speaking of ultimately meaning nothing. Usually our defense is a big problem, and they probably had a good game, I'd say, last night.
I wouldn't go that far.
For them.
That's a bold statement.
For them, it was a good game.
Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Zeese just told our listening audience, all you people out there listening, that the defense had a good night. And the sound you hear is the sound of everybody stopping the show.
How many points did we allow?
We allowed 26 points, including
and 10 of those
one
on the offense. So,
Cam
for
Newton
them,
had
that's good.
Over 100.
Yeah, the yardage is always going to be terrible.
The Carolina offense ran for 148 yards. We gave up 132 yards to Jonathan Stewart.
Who only gained 100 yards against the Redskins, apparently.
Right.
That's it. That's true.
Everyone gains 100 yards against the Redskins. That's not special.
Cam Newton had not passed over 50% completion rate. Cam Newton had not had a over 50% completion rate in like 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
He was 21 to 37 for 300 yards, quarterback rating of 101.2. His quarterback rating on the season is, before this game was, if you give me 1 second, I'll find it. It's down in like the 70s.
Right.
It's just crazy.
We are the team that offenses can get right against. I think we all know that, but I was just looking at purely at the points. I would say 16 points that were on the defense, 10 were on the offense. So, you know me, I care more about points than yardage, Steve.
Well, I know, but listen, the fans this morning were ready to run Joe Barry out of town.
Well, but we're like that even in wins.
But here's the thing. Teams feed off defense, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's an energy level. I think the whole team, the lack of confidence in the defense is starting to have a little bit of dominoes effect to the rest of the team. You have no confidence. Yeah, they may hold to, victory is holding to a field goal. The time of possession just starts to churn. It's big play after big play. And you know what? High-powered offenses lay eggs. That's it's a little bit of the law of averages with offenses. And we just have no confidence. And that was a game last night where, if you're punching back with your defense and you're churning and you're getting energies and you're getting a couple of turnovers, then you're getting big stops. Like that has an effect. That can help an offense go. It can keep you close. So even when the game was sort of close, you just had no energy, no punch, and I don't know. I think that lack of energy and the kind of brain freeze that comes from that defense, it was contagious last night. I really felt that's what was part of the problem.
Well, and I mean, I am trying to defend them, but I'm also going to insult them at the same time. I do think that what I was saying about the offense lacking that nitty-gritty, old-school football mentality, it applies to our defense too, even more so right now. We built this team to have a good secondary and nothing else. We built it again for speed and not power. And football, I love history of sports and stuff like that. And a lot of the things I read about football in the 1920s, it's this idea that football was speed versus strength. And where are you going to give up on speed to add strength and vice versa? And this team is just completely given up on the strength aspect of the game right now.
There's one thing wrong with what you said, though. We don't have a good secondary. Okay?
Well, no,
we have one good player.
On paper, we built ourselves to have a good secondary. That's what I meant. We invested in the secondary nowhere else.
We have right now, I mean, we didn't have that many more before their injuries, but with the injuries, we have 3 legitimate NFL starters starting on our defense. Ryan Kerrigan, Chris Baker, which is debatable, maybe be good, would be a top end rotational guy in many teams, and Josh Norman. Those are really the only 3 players that you can highlight as legitimate NFL starters. And I'm not saying stars. I'm not saying, all pros, Pro Bowl guys. I'm saying the guys that you would want starting in a middling defense in the NFL.
Right. Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think there's no doubt that the team is essentially one. They ignored the defense in the draft. Essentially, they drafted Kendall Fuller, they drafted Stuart Cravens, but the front 7 needs a lot of help. If you look at the middle of the field, if you look straight down the middle of the field, right, you see the interior defensive line are a bunch of, with the exception of Chris Baker, are a bunch of just the guys. Our inside linebackers. Will just Compton, he's a smart guy, but he's unathletic, poor coverage skills. Same with Mason Foster. You go back, strong safety. We have what seems like a whole team full of strong safeties, but none of them excel. None of them are all that athletic.
None of them know how to cover deep, apparently.
Yeah, we really don't have a true free safety on the roster. So if you look straight down the middle of the field, the only thing we have that are worthy are edge guys in the outside linebackers. Ryan Kerrigan and Preston Smith's had a down year, but he has some talent. And then you got Josh Norman, and then you got Bashaud Breeland, who's okay, not great, but that's the only talent we have is on the edges.
Murphy, I would also say as an edge rusher, okay, not great. He's a rotational guy, but he's had a couple good games for us. So,
But let's get back to the game at hand here.
Right.
I thought the biggest flaw in the defense this week was their tackling was atrocious.
Oh yeah, but that's been our MO for years now. It seems like.
But they've been better, recently. In about the second half of the season, I thought they've been better. But it's like they just didn't want any part of Jonathan Stewart. That dude just ran all up and down, over, through, on top of, did everything to his defense that he wanted to do.
It was arm tackle theater last night. I mean, it was just, slapping at whoever had the ball. And they get a little, especially when they get desperate, you can see the team is just like they'd rather swipe at the ball than actually make a solid tackle. I think that's part of the problem, especially also when they feel the game getting away.
Yeah, it was like slap and tickle night. It wasn't like put your shoulder in a guy and hit somebody night.
No.
It's just embarrassing.
The only person that really stood out to me having a good night was Breeland, and even then, ultimately, he was doing what you feel like he should be doing, which is, breaking up passes.
Norman had a good
turnover.
Night. Norman did, Kelvin Benjamin was kind of taken out of the game,
right?
To any noticeable extent. He had the one first down, catch and one other catch. He was 2 for 20 yards. And so Norman had a good night, I thought. But other than that, Breeland was better. But other than that, I can't name a single person on the defense I thought that performed well than those 2 guys.
No.
Early in the season, when we talked about the defense, and the thing was, they can force turnovers. Those have dried up significantly. And I was worried when people would say that early in the season, we might get, beat up between the 20s, but we force turnovers. The turnovers have been few and far between for many weeks in a row.
Well, let me just say this about that. Josh Norman, if he wants to be Mr. All-Pro corner, he's got to start getting some more of these interceptions.
He
dropped another one.
Right?
Yeah, he only has one on the year. He dropped another one.
Yeah.
On what looked like a 9 route to Ted Ginn. It was straight in his hands, dropped it. And that's happened before, with him. So he's got to do a better job of getting the interceptions for sure. And you're absolutely right, Chris, about that.
I wonder how much of that has to do with the fact that when he was in Carolina, he had help over top, so he felt like he could gamble more. I look at things like that as a big factor as to why we're not getting interceptions. If you don't have a good safety, guys don't want to go for the interception.
He was never like a huge interception guy, though. He had interceptions, but he wasn't like Darrell Green out there grabbing everything, or D'Angelo Hall grabbing everything in sight. That's not really what he's doing.
I think he had 4 last year, which is by no means
it's not really his
exceptional.
game. I mean,
Yeah.
he's an exceptional cover corner. He's an exceptional man cover corner
Right.
because he's very physical. But you know how you get interceptions is you jump the routes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you time it. And that was the D'Angelo Hall thing. It's not really Josh Norman's thing, but he needs to do better.
Yeah.
He
Also,
does.
if the team is successful with him, it would be Breeland's interception numbers are up, or if we had professional level safeties, right? Because, you know, they're forcing the ball in other places because they
Right.
basically, he is a shutdown corner. He's his closest thing that we've had in a while. And people don't go at him, especially with the rest of our secondary. So we should be seeing an increase in interceptions from the other DBs, and we just aren't. And it just is just a dearth of talent.
No.
Well, you talked about our lack of professional safeties. Can we please talk about the Dante Whitner play? No, that's-
I mean,
And
it
Chris
really
is
doesn't count
laughing.
as a play.
Straight
so
up
it
laughing.
counts as
Well, let's break it down a little bit, okay?
Yeah.
What happened was, you know, there were at least twins, maybe trips on the right side, and it looked like the Redskins were in, to me, a 3 deep zone where, you know, typical cover 3 type thing, wherein the corner, which was Norman, has the entire right third of the field. Dante Whitner is a free safety. He's got the middle, and the other corner on the other side has got,
right.
you know, it's got the other side. And Norman stays in his zone with the outside receiver. Whitner's guy runs a post straight
Glenn,
in the middle.
I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah, and for some odd reason, instead of going with the deep guy, Whitner hesitated, looked like he was looking at the line of scrimmage. I don't know if there was a tight end or somebody coming across the field or what. He just flat out let that guy run flat out into the end zone. And the funny thing and so it was just a bust. That's like high school level safety work.
Right.
You know, you go with the deep guy. If 2 guys are in your zone, stay with the deep guy.
Right.
You know, it's like safety 101. And the funniest thing about it is if you watched Josh Norman very carefully in the end zone after the play, it looked like he wanted to like throw a knife at Whitner.
Yeah. Well, because he knows people are going to put it on him if anybody gets over top like that. You know, he's the big name. But, yeah.
But
and
if people watch what happened, they know that one wasn't on Norman.
Yeah. I mean, okay, Glenn does kind of like go between the seam of where, you know, Norman's covering and Whitner's covering, but it's on Whitner.
No. Yeah, he did not run the seam. He was breaking into the interior of the field. That's very clearly Whitner's guy. There's no doubt.
Oh yeah,
and
I
Norman
think
had
it's
a
Whitner's
guy in
guy.
his zone. Norman had a guy in his zone too,
Mhm.
so it's guy.
And the other
They
guys,
look confused on every play. I mean, they really don't know where they're supposed to line up.
Right.
You can see it pre-snap, post-snap. I mean, there's just huge gaping holes in the passing game where just like the receivers are surprised, right? Like they run a route and they like, is there really no one within 15 yards of me?
Olsen was wide open several times, but I have a hard time blaming the coaches for that bust by Whitner. You know, because again, a high school player should know that. I just, you know, if you don't, I don't know what you're doing in the NFL if you don't know, go with the deep guy. You know, when you're the free safety, I just don't get it.
well,
He was out of
maybe
the
fact
NFL in
that we have
October.
to bring a
Well, you're a good point. Yeah, he wasn't in the NFL. That's a good point.
Yeah. I mean, he's only been here a few weeks, and he's a strong safety. He doesn't really know how to cover. I mean,
I guess, man.
it's a mess. Our
Well,
whole
nice.
defense is a mess, and hopefully,
Well, and let's also say Martell Spate, you know, who was the savior. You know, a lot of fans thought he was going to be the savior when Will Compton went down with his concussion. He wasn't very good. He had the same coverage deficiencies as did Compton. You know, I didn't see a noticeable improvement. I'm no linebacker expert. I don't know if one of you guys are, but
Nope.
I didn't see any noticeable improvement from Martell Spate over Will Compton.
No.
Oh, I
And-
think you saw a downgrade. I mean, Compton may not be, you know, Sean Lee, but you know, I think you noticed a downgrade in play at that position for sure.
Probably.
At least in running the defense and even just, I don't know, hustle and effort and I don't know. I thought you could definitely tell Compton wasn't in there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is sad to say.
Yeah, because Compton is very much an average linebacker. You know,
Yeah,
I mean,
average.
a guy like him has a place on a team, but it's not necessarily what he's doing. Yeah, I don't know if there's much else to say on the defense. One thing that I do want to bring up real quick, the refs did everything they could to try and give us this game, it felt like. They really do hate Cam Newton. I never thought I'd say that, but they, like, the hit to the head he took, and then he gets flagged for for excessive celebration or unsportsmanlike conduct. Or
Yeah. Well, I mean, he did deserve that penalty, but it should have been offsetting because they very clearly. I saw some commentary on the interwebs by one of the podcasts that aren't my favorite, claiming that really shouldn't have been a flag on that play. I think it was clearly contact to the head to me.
It was.
And any other quarterback probably would have been flagged. But Cam did taunt, and so he did deserve his own flag, in my opinion.
Sure.
It should have been an offsetting penalty and do-over to me.
Right. And I know it was Walt Coleman, who everyone tends to say is one of the worst refs out there.
Oh.
But, yeah, I actually started feeling bad for Cam Newton because I think they had 2 or 3 incidents there where, like, you're giving us the flag and not them for what just...
Well, it's like Shaquille O'Neal in his prime in the NBA. The guy was so big and strong, he never got foul calls.
Right.
Because guys just kind of bounced off him, and that's kind of Cam to a certain extent. He's so big, strong, athletic. He makes everybody else look silly, and so I think he doesn't get some of these calls that other quarterbacks would. I think if Kirk Cousins had been pounded in the head on a scramble like that, there would have been a flag for sure.
But there's even some weird calls that didn't even involve Cam. That one pass interference that they picked up. I guess you look at any one of those and you can kind of debate them, but it did seem like a bizarre trend of like even 25 seconds past the flag and they're suddenly reversing the call. What is going on?
Yeah.
Well, guys, do you want to move to game balls?
Sure. Do we have to?
I don't know if you have any game balls to give for this.
I do. I have a game ball.
Okay.
I want to give. Cam Newton gets a game ball. Can I do that? I'm giving the Redskins game ball to Cam Newton.
Damn.
Because nobody on our team deserves it, and so I'm gonna have, I don't know who needs to be the guy that walk over to the Carolina locker room and give Cam the Redskins game ball, but somebody does.
I think
maybe
you have
Dante.
to make the head coach do it in that kind.
Yeah, have Jay Gruden do it, kind of surrender. We'll make it kind of like. General MacArthur in the Japanese on the USS Missouri in World War II, and have Jay Gruden officially surrender the game ball to Cam Newton. So I'm giving my game ball to Cam Newton.
I would actually say Jay is probably a coach who would be crazy enough to do something like that.
I don't know.
If he was pissed off enough at his team, he would do something like that.
We did injuries, by the way.
Oh yeah. You want to? Because we had a rash of them in the end.
Yeah, I don't have a great list here, but Dunbar concussion. Jordan Reed had the shoulder. Toller was evaluated for a concussion, but I don't think he was put in any concussion protocol.
Okay.
So that's good. We lost Will Compton for the year. He had an ACL tear. He's out. He's on IR. The team actually signed a guy named last name Vigil, so Vigil, a linebacker off the. Who got waived by the Dolphins. Sorry about that. So he's going to take Will Compton's place on the roster. So Dunbar, concussion, Reed, shoulder, Tolar, unknown, Compton gone for the year. Did I miss anybody?
We mentioned Houston Bates at the top, so I think
I didn't mean Compton. Wait, let me correct myself. Yeah, I didn't mean Compton gone I meant Houston Bates gone for the year.
Oh, okay.
Houston Bates is on IR with the ACL. So forgive me. That's what I meant. Compton still has his concussion.
All right, Chris, do you have any game balls?
I mean, it's I guess maybe Deshaun Jackson and Josh Norman probably played the closest to competent of anyone on the team, so I guess them. But I don't know, like one of those little mini footballs you can get out of the quarter machine or something.
Got it. With little gumball helmets.
Yeah. Good job, guys.
I guess I'll go Breland just to go on the other side of Norman. I thought he had a game that he needed to have, but that's not saying a whole lot. Just a bad game. No one really deserves anything. In fact, I'm taking that back. No one gets a game ball from me. And I
liked my idea best of having Jay go give it to Josh.
Yeah, I think that's pretty
Cam.
good. You know what? I'm going to give a deflated football to Kirk because it was his worst game of the year, in my mind.
Deflated football.
Yeah.
We can have Tom Brady present the deflated football.
Oh, no. This is one that's got a knife stuck in it, just flat. That should do it for this show. Guys, I want to thank you for both coming on, especially Chris, because like we said, we kind of had to do this last minute. I want to thank people for tuning in. I know with it being, the holiday season coming up, a lot of people already traveling to family members' house this week. So thanks for listening. If you're already out there, visiting home, we'll catch you all actually tomorrow, I believe, for the Bears pregame show. Good night, and hope everyone stays warm this winter.
Merry Christmas,
All right.
Happy Hanukkah, all that stuff.
Yep.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, bye.